Assalamu alaikum, let's explore this Islamic topic together. Hey, so, you know how we were talking about women in history the other day? Well, it got me thinking about something really fascinating. The hidden lives of Islamic female scholars. It's a huge topic, honestly, and so incredibly important, especially when you consider how often women's contributions are overlooked. Right? This isn't just about some dusty old books. It's about reclaiming a vital part of Islamic history and understanding that the image of Islam we often get, maybe from the news or even just popular culture, is, well, it's incomplete. It often leaves out the incredible contributions women made to scholarship, intellectual life, and even the spread of the faith itself. Think about it. We hear about famous male figures. The caliphs, the theologians, the poets, all essential. Of course. But for centuries, countless women were equally brilliant, studying alongside men, sometimes secretly, becoming highly educated, and shaping Islamic thought in profound ways. Their stories, however, have largely been silenced, or just whispered about. That's why the hidden lives of Islamic female scholars is so significant. It's about shining a light on those whispers, revealing their incredible intellectual journeys, and giving them the recognition they deserve. Now, you might imagine that in a religion sometimes viewed as restrictive towards women, there would be little room for female scholars. But that's a huge oversimplification. The early Islamic period, after the Prophet Muhammad's death, was surprisingly open in many ways. There was a huge emphasis on learning, on seeking knowledge, which was considered a religious duty for both men and women. The Quran itself emphasizes the importance of seeking knowledge. And early Islamic society saw the rise of amazing centers of learning, think libraries, universities, even private study circles, where women participated. We're talking about women who memorized the entire Quran, which is an incredible feat of memory and devotion. We're talking about women who became experts in jurisprudence, interpreting religious law and contributing to its evolution. They were proficient in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, subjects considered highly prestigious at the time. Imagine the dedication and intellect needed to master these fields, often facing significant social barriers. The thing is, the methods they used to achieve this were often ingenious. Because access to formal education wasn't always available, many women learned in private settings, sometimes through family members or tutors who came to their homes. Others studied in mosques, though perhaps in less visible areas, or within their own communities. Some even formed their own study circles, sharing knowledge and supporting each other. It's like a secret network of brilliant minds, passing down wisdom and knowledge across generations. And the sheer variety of their contributions is remarkable. Some became renowned teachers, inspiring generations of students. Others wrote prolifically, producing insightful commentaries on religious poetry that explored themes of faith and spirituality, or even scientific treatises. Their work wasn't always easily accessible or widely circulated, but it existed, and it made a difference. Think about a woman like Rabia al-Adawiyya, a mystic poet from the 8th century. She's considered one of the most influential Sufi figures, known for her passionate devotion and profound mystical poems. Or consider Fatima al-Fihri, who in the 9th century founded the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Fez, Morocco, one of the oldest existing universities in the world, a testament to the power of women in education and intellectual life in that era. It's crucial to remember that even during periods where societal limitations were more pronounced, women found ways to contribute. They might not have held official positions, but their influence was felt in families, communities, and through the teachings they passed on. This hidden legacy is what makes the work of uncovering their stories so significant. It's not just about filling historical gaps. It's about reclaiming a narrative that has been unjustly silenced. It's about inspiring future generations of women, demonstrating that intellectual pursuit is not limited by gender or circumstance. And it's about presenting a richer, more accurate, and more nuanced understanding of Islamic history and culture, a history that truly reflects a diversity of talent and the profound contributions of women across all fields. It's about showing that powerful women have always been a part of the story, and that their stories matter. So, next time you hear someone talk about Islam, remember the hidden lives of these incredible women scholars. Their contributions were vital, their stories are inspiring, and their legacies deserve to be celebrated. It's a fascinating journey of discovery, and there's so much more to uncover. I highly recommend exploring it further. You won't regret it. Hey, so, you know how we were talking about overlooked figures in history? Well, I've been reading about something absolutely fascinating. The hidden lives of Islamic female scholars. It's seriously mind-blowing, the stuff they accomplished, and how much of it was just lost. It's like a whole secret chapter of history we're only just beginning to uncover. It didn't start with some grand, coordinated movement. You know, there wasn't a women's lib moment in the early Islamic world like we've seen in other periods. Instead, it began subtly, organically, in the very fabric of early Islamic society. Think about it, the Prophet Muhammad himself valued women's intellect and contributions. He stressed education and learning for everyone, regardless of gender. This wasn't just lip service either. There are many documented stories of women directly questioning him on religious matters, engaging in intellectual debates, and participating actively in the early Muslim community. Imagine a world where learning was highly valued, and access to it wasn't necessarily dictated by gender. That was the case in the early centuries of Islam. While there were definitely societal norms and expectations, the early Islamic world saw a flowering of intellectual pursuit, and women were a part of that. Think of the rich intellectual environment of Baghdad during the Abbasid Caliphate. A true melting pot of cultures and ideas, where scholarship flourished in grand libraries and bustling centers of learning. Women found niches within that system. Now, this wasn't always easy. We're not talking about some utopian society. There were always challenges, restrictions, and societal pressures. But even within those limitations, incredibly resourceful women carved out spaces for themselves. Think about how many things we take for granted today, the idea of women having any formal education, let alone pursuing advanced scholarship. That wasn't always the case, and even less so for women in many parts of the world throughout history. But in the early Islamic world, the space existed, albeit often in less formal settings. These women often learned within their own families, or in small, informal circles with other women scholars. They might have studied in private with male teachers, although this was probably less common than the other methods. They wouldn't have attended the big, formal universities, those were mainly for men, but they became incredibly learned nonetheless. They studied the Quran, Hadith, the sayings and traditions of the Prophet, Islamic law, Sharia, theology, mathematics, medicine, poetry, and even astronomy. One of the most striking things about their stories is how diverse their experiences were. Some came from wealthy families, others from humble beginnings. Some were wives, mothers, and even leaders within their communities, balancing their intellectual pursuits with the demands of family life. Others dedicated their lives entirely to scholarship. Imagine the challenges of writing, researching, and preserving knowledge when you might not have access to libraries, or even be able to easily travel to meet with other scholars. They had to be incredibly resourceful and determined. Their contributions were immense. Many women became renowned experts in Islamic law, writing commentaries on religious essays and issuing legal opinions. Others made significant advancements in medicine, writing influential medical essays and practicing medicine within their communities. Some were poets of exceptional talent, using their words to express their faith, their struggles, and their visions. Their writings were often passed down through generations within families or small groups, preserving knowledge that might otherwise have been lost. But gradually, much of their work disappeared from the mainstream historical record. Several factors contributed to this loss: shifts in societal norms, political upheavals, and the dominance of male voices in the chronicling of history. The very fact that much of their work was preserved through oral tradition and private networks meant it was less likely to be formally documented or widely disseminated. Uncovering these hidden lives is not just about reclaiming a forgotten past. It's about understanding a much more complex and nuanced picture of Islamic history, a picture that includes the vital contributions of women. It's a story about resilience, ingenuity, and intellectual pursuit in the face of incredible challenges. It's about the ways in which women shaped the religious, intellectual, and cultural landscape of the early Islamic world, even if that influence was often concealed from view. It's about realizing that the narrative we often hear is only half the story, and what a breathtakingly rich half we're still uncovering. And that's just the beginning. We're only starting to understand the true scale of their achievements, the depth of their knowledge, and the ways in which they impacted the development of Islamic thought and culture. It's a constantly evolving story, with new discoveries being made all the time. It's a fascinating journey into a hidden world, one filled with strength, intelligence, and faith. It's a story that deserves to be heard, loud and clear. Hey, so, we were talking about the hidden lives of Islamic female scholars. Right? We touched on the introduction. But things really get fascinating in the middle chapters. It's not just a dry recitation of names and dates. It's about unraveling these incredible lives, often obscured by history, and seeing how these women shaped Islamic thought and society. Think about it, we often hear about powerful Islamic figures. The sultans, the caliphs, the famous theologians, mostly men. But the middle chapters of this book really show us the other side of the story. A huge network of women who were incredibly influential, but whose contributions were either deliberately downplayed or simply forgotten over time. One thing that struck me was the sheer diversity of their roles. It wasn't just about religious scholarship, although that was a big part of it. Some were renowned hadith scholars, meticulously preserving and interpreting the sayings and actions of the Prophet Muhammad, a task that required immense dedication and memory. Imagine spending your life committing thousands of hadith to heart, often facing societal pressures to prioritize domestic duties. These women were incredibly disciplined and intelligent. Then you had women who were expert jurists, interpreting Islamic law, Sharia, and applying it to everyday life. This wasn't some abstract exercise. Their rulings affected families, communities, even entire regions. They were consulted on complex legal matters, offering opinions that carried significant weight. And again, This was often happening behind the scenes. Their voices not always formally acknowledged in official records. Another fascinating area is their involvement in Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam. Many women became prominent Sufi poets, expressing their spiritual experiences through breathtaking verses. Their poem wasn't just pretty words. It often contained deep theological insights and reflections on the divine, often conveying complex spiritual journeys in beautiful, accessible language. It was a way for them to express themselves and connect with a wider community, even if their names were not always widely known. And it wasn't just about intellectual pursuits. Many women were involved in education, teaching younger generations the Quran and Islamic principles. Think about the impact of a woman who could skillfully interpret religious essence and instill a love of learning in her students, shaping generations of future Islamic scholars and community leaders. This kind of informal education was incredibly important, especially when formal institutions were limited. They were often the heart of their communities, passing on knowledge and wisdom. The book also really highlights the challenges these women faced. The historical context is crucial here. Remember, we're talking about vastly different eras and societies, where gender roles were often rigidly defined. Many faced resistance from both men and women who saw their pursuit of knowledge as inappropriate or even threatening. Some had to learn in secret, relying on family support or finding creative ways to access education. Others faced social stigma for their intellectual achievements, a silencing that is heartbreaking to read about. It wasn't all hardship, though. The book also shows us the support networks these women built with each other. They often formed close-knit communities, helping each other overcome obstacles and sharing their knowledge. The stories of mentorship and collaboration are really inspiring. They weren't isolated figures fighting their battles alone. They worked together, supporting and inspiring one another. The middle chapters really delve into the specifics of their lives, revealing the intricacies of their struggles and triumphs. We get glimpses into their personal lives, their relationships with family and friends, their hopes and dreams. It humanizes them, making them relatable despite the historical distance. They weren't just abstract figures in history. They were complex, multifaceted individuals with their own personalities and emotions. What's so powerful is how the book manages to weave together these individual stories with a broader historical narrative. It paints a picture of the evolving role of women in Islamic society, showcasing both the progress and the persistent challenges. It highlights how women contributed to Islamic thought despite the numerous barriers they faced, subtly shifting our understanding of Islamic history and challenging traditional narratives. By the time you reach the end of the middle chapters, you'll have a much deeper appreciation for the richness and complexity of Islamic history and a crucial role women played in shaping it. It's a reminder that history is often incomplete, biased, and that by uncovering the hidden lives of these remarkable women, we gain a more accurate, more complete, and ultimately, more enriching understanding of the past. It's a really powerful and moving read, definitely worth diving into deeper. Okay, so we've been diving into the incredible, largely untold stories of Islamic female scholars, right? It's been fascinating, hasn't it? Thinking about how much we don't know about their contributions, how much history has just glossed over them. But as we near the end of this amazing journey, it's important to think about how the story itself concludes. Because it's not a neat little bow. You know, it's more of a continuing legacy, a ripple effect. The book, well, imagine it as this sprawling tapes, woven from threads of individual lives. Each woman's story is a thread, Some are bright and bold, easily visible, while others are fainter, almost lost in the overall design. But they're all there, contributing to the whole. And what that whole shows us is something really powerful: the enduring strength, resilience, and intellectual brilliance of women within Islamic societies throughout history. We see women like Rabia of Basra, a mystic from the 8th century, whose power and spiritual teachings challenged the rigid social norms of her time. She was a powerful figure, even in a patriarchal society, who completely redefined spiritual devotion, emphasizing a direct connection with God, totally independent of intermediaries. Her legacy isn't just in her writings, it's in the countless mystics who followed in her footsteps. Women who found strength in her radical teachings. Then we have figures like Amina al-Dawla, a 10th century physician and scholar who not only practiced medicine but also penned important treatises on the subject. Imagine the audacity: a woman gaining knowledge and skill in a field completely dominated by men, not only treating the sick, but also advancing medical knowledge itself. Think of the obstacles she must have faced, the societal pressures she had to overcome, just to pursue her passion. Her story isn't just her personal triumph. It's a testament to the intellectual capability of women that was often ignored or suppressed. And it's not just about individual achievement. The conclusion, if you can call it that, is the realization of a vast, interconnected network. These women weren't isolated figures. They learned from each other, taught each other, built upon each other's knowledge. They formed a kind of invisible sisterhood, passing down knowledge and wisdom through generations, often in informal settings, family gatherings, private lessons, even through whispered conversations that defied societal constraints. Remember Fatima al-Fihri, the founder of the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Fez, Morocco? That's not just one woman's achievement, but a foundational moment in the history of education. The university she established became a crucial center of learning, a place where all sorts of scholars, including women, could study and contribute. Her legacy is enduring, a testament to the power of women's empowerment and access to education. It's a powerful symbol of how women's contributions can shape entire societies. So, the conclusion isn't an ending at all. It's a recognition of a continuous, often hidden, history of female intellectual contribution within Islam. It's a challenge to our own understanding of history, forcing us to question what we've been told and to seek out the untold narratives. It compels us to remember that even when women were excluded from formal historical accounts, they were actively shaping the intellectual, spiritual, and social landscapes of their societies. And what's really moving is the sheer diversity of these women's experiences. They came from different social backgrounds, different regions, different eras. Some were known far and wide, others were known only within their local communities. But they're all connected by their dedication to learning, their pursuit of knowledge, and their often remarkable resilience in the face of enormous obstacles. The final thought is this: the hidden lives aren't hidden anymore. By uncovering these stories, we aren't just adding names to a historical list. We are enriching our understanding of Islamic history, challenging patriarchal narratives, and inspiring future generations of women to pursue their dreams, knowing that their voices and contributions matter, and that their legacies will endure. It's a reminder that even when their names were obscured, their impact resonated through time. Their stories are not merely historical footnotes. They are the vibrant heart of a richer, more complete, and more just narrative of Islamic history. And that, my friend, is a truly powerful and enduring conclusion. Okay, So you are asking what? The hidden lives of Islamic female scholars. Let's just call it hidden lives for short, teaches Muslims today? It's a really fascinating question. And honestly, it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's not just a history lesson. It's a powerful reminder, a reclaiming, and of inspiration. First off, we need to acknowledge the sheer audacity of the topic itself. We often hear about prominent male figures in Islamic history, the caliphs, the scholars, the poets, but the contributions of women? They're often muted, sidelined, or even completely erased. Hidden Lives shines a light on that injustice. It shows us that Islamic history wasn't just a male-dominated affair. It was rich with incredible women, brilliant minds that shaped religious thought, jurisprudence, and even political landscapes. Think about it, for centuries, women were largely excluded from formal education and public life. Many were confined to the domestic sphere. Yet somehow, through sheer determination and often under the radar, they became incredibly knowledgeable in Islamic sciences, like *fiqh*, Islamic jurisprudence, hadith, the sayings and traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, *tafsir*, Quranic exegesis, and even medicine and astronomy. Hidden Lives unearths their stories, revealing their intellectual prowess and their deep engagement with religious s. Take, for instance, the story of Rabia al-Adawiyah, a woman who lived in the 8th century. She wasn't just a devout mystic. She was a profound theological thinker, known for her insightful poem and her revolutionary ideas about the nature of divine law. Her work fundamentally shaped Sufi thought, influencing generations of both male and female mystics. She challenged conventional notions of piety and devotion, showing us that spirituality could be deeply personal and radically different from the more rigid interpretations of her time. And Hidden Lives helps us understand the core of her life, the societal limitations she faced, and how she navigated them to achieve such remarkable influence. Then there's Nafisa al-Fihri, who, in the 9th century, founded the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Fez, Morocco, the oldest existing educational institution in the world. Imagine the kind of courage and foresight that must have been required to establish such an institution in a time when women's education was largely frowned upon. Her legacy continues to this day, a testament to her vision and unwavering commitment to knowledge. It's not just a university's history, it's the story of a woman making history. Hidden Lives helps us see the power and reach of her influence. But Hidden Lives doesn't just on the well-known figures. It digs deep into the lives of less famous women, often from diverse social backgrounds, who contributed immensely to intellectual discourse within their communities, sometimes through teaching small groups of women, or writing commentaries that circulated privately. It reveals a hidden network of female scholarship, a vibrant intellectual tradition that has been tragically underestimated for far too long. What does this mean for Muslims today? Well, firstly, it's a powerful corrective to a patriarchal narrative that often silences female voices. It reminds us that the history of Islam is far richer and more complex than we might have previously believed. It dismantles the myth that Islam inherently suppressed women. It demonstrates that women have actively engaged with and shaped Islamic thought throughout history. This is crucial in combating misconceptions about Islam and empowering Muslim women today. Secondly, Hidden Lives provides of profound inspiration. These women faced immense challenges, social constraints, limited opportunities, prejudice, yet they persevered, achieving extraordinary things. Their stories are a powerful reminder of the resilience, intelligence, and determination of Muslim women throughout history. Their stories empower us to face our own challenges with similar grace and fortitude. We see their strength, not just their limitations. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, Hidden Lives calls us to a more inclusive understanding of Islam. It challenges us to revisit our interpretations of religious essence and traditions, ensuring that we are not inadvertently perpetuating patriarchal biases. It encourages us to engage in a more critical and nuanced understanding of our faith, acknowledging the contributions of all believers, regardless of gender. It's a call to create a more equitable and just Islamic community, one that truly reflects the diversity and richness of its history. So, Hidden Lives of Islamic Female Scholars isn't just about history. It's about reclaiming a narrative, celebrating unsung heroes, and building a more inclusive and empowered future for Muslim women and the entire community. It's a story of hidden strength, brilliance, and enduring faith, and it's a story that deserves to be heard and celebrated. Goodbye, may Allah bless us all. That's our discussion for today.